Hello, everybody, and welcome to another takeaway edition of SEC football here on the Voice of College Football channel at the SEC. So please go over and like and subscribe on all the Voice of College Football channels, and especially this one. So please, again, like and subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Lets you know when we do go live on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then when I drop the special edition videos. If there's any big time recruiting news, like Jakeem Stewart actually just reclassified. So if he goes somewhere, like and subscribe. You might see a video about him going to your favorite football team. So like and subscribe right here. Number one, it has to be number one, has to start out this way. It has to. No debate. Vanderbilt won the weekend in the SEC. And my takeaway is they might go bowling. They just might. Kentucky, Ball State, Texas, at Auburn, South Carolina, at LSU, Tennessee, and they're at Kentucky, actually. You need 3. You're going to get Ball State, so you really need 2. Can you beat South Carolina at home? Can you beat Texas at home? I can't believe I'm even saying that. Can you beat Kentucky on the road? Can you beat Auburn on the road? I think those are your biggest possibilities. Obviously, Tennessee as well. I don't really see LSU, honestly, on the road. But it's your first win ever versus a top 5 team. It's the first time they have beat Alabama since 1984. So party like it's 1984, 40 years ago. And then the time prior to that was 1969. So you beat them twice in what? 55 years, basically. So party, man. It's a good time to be a Vanderbilt fan. I don't know if there's many of them out there. I hope you find your way to this video, like and subscribe, like I said. And you may go bowling. You have that chance. You have Diego Pavia, who he's going to lay it on the line, man. I love to watch that guy play. He's really fun to watch play. He loves football. You can tell that. He loves to compete. He loves the physicality. And honestly, he probably loves this program at this point. So he plays truly for the love of the game. He's really fun to watch. They have some pieces. Eli Stowers, I clowned on from being an ex-quarterback. That guy is probably going to be in the NFL as a tight end. He's been very impressive. I've been impressed by him. Obviously, C.J. Taylor on the other side of the ball. They're a solid football team now. They're not an easy out. They're not that team that gets clowned anymore. Honestly, that's Mississippi State this year. Vanderbilt has a chance to go bowling, and I did not think that before the season. I thought they'd probably win 2 to 3 games like they do basically every year and to be all out of conference games. It's their first conference win in, 3 years, 3 or 4 years? So congratulations to you guys. Celebrate that win, and you have a chance to go bowling. You got to get 3 of these next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. You got a shot. You really do. Number 2. Flip it to the other team that played on that field. Alabama might just be bad defensively or average. I put average for now because I do not know. But 67 points in the last 6 quarters of football. Guys, if you can do quick math for me, that is 11 points a quarter. That is atrocious. That is terrible. That is really bad. And my concern with this Alabama team going into the season was the secondary. I thought they had a pretty good front 7, and I still think they do. Is it as good as I thought it was going to be? No. But the secondary is young. Is it talented? Yes. But is it as talented as it normally is? Absolutely not. Like, I like Damani Jackson, but he's not Kool-Aid McKinstry or Terrion Arnold or Pat Surtain or any of those guys. He's just not. So this is the least talented Alabama secondary I've seen in a long time. It's probably early Nick Saban years. It might be a second year there bad, honestly. I'm not going to – it is obviously – better than his first year bad. It's not that bad. But overall, this just isn't a good secondary, and you see that. Versus the run, they're actually pretty good. They're still only giving up 3.3 yards per carry and only 34th in yards per game on the ground. They're pretty good versus the pass, too. I think they give up 5.8 yards per pass, which is still top 20 in the country. But to me, they're just not making those big-time plays, and you can see they can be they're not – consistent in their tackling. They're not consistent with their playmaking on the back end. There's a lot of wide open receivers at times running just butt-ass wide open, honestly. And you saw Georgia kind of exploit that in the second half down the field, which if you've watched Georgia, they really haven't been able to do that versus anyone else. So I think that's an Alabama thing. So keep an eye on that. And an average Alabama defense with this offense isn't good enough to win a national championship. Is it good enough to compete in this year's SEC? Yeah, it is, because I think the SEC is down. I think, honestly, college football is down as a whole, but I still think Honestly, right now, two teams, my Texas Longhorns and Ohio State, stand out above the rest for now. That can change next week. We could lose to Oklahoma. That could change. I don't think we're going to, but it could change. And then I could change my mind on that. But this has been crazy, guys. And I've decided, if you watch the SEC show, my picks have been doing horrible. I am sticking with my preseason picks because my preseason predictions have been way better than my in-season. My in-season predictions have been terrible. So this book right here that I have of preseason predictions, I'm sticking to it. I don't care if I disagree with what I've seen with my eyes. It's been right more than I have been in the season, so I'm sticking to it. I did not have Vanderbilt beating Alabama. Nobody and their mom had that. Vanderbilt fans didn't have that. So, yeah, it's been an interesting year so far. Probably the craziest year since 2007, and I think it's only going to get crazier. But Alabama, my guys, you got to fix it up on the back end. Caden Womack, you got to fix it up. You just got to clean things up, make it better. If you need to make things easier, take some plays out of the playbook that are a little bit more complicated, do that. But they look lost on some plays. They honestly kind of look like Michigan. If you guys have watched them, they look lost on some certain plays with Wink Martindale. And I think Alabama's kind of the same way. Number 3, Tennessee has a Nico problem. And Tennessee fans are going to get angry about that. I do not care. It is in the proof is in the pudding at this point. He has looked great versus the Kent States of the world, the Chattanoogas of the world. I do not care. To win a national championship, to win an SEC championship, you don't play Chattanooga. You don't play Tennessee Tech. You don't play Kent State. That's not the teams you're playing. You're playing Texas. You're playing Alabama. You're playing Georgia. And are those teams down from where they were? Of course they are. Well, other than Texas. I think Texas might be just as good as they were last year. But are they better than are those teams better than Chattanooga? Absolutely. And I said on the live show the last 2 weeks, I think Nico is good. He is not great. And Tennessee fans think he is great. He has not proven to be great. Honestly, at this point, he hasn't even been proven to be good. And the 2 games that matter, which are Oklahoma and Arkansas versus Arkansas, 16 of 28 for 156 yards. That is pedestrian. 13 of 21 for 194 yards and a touchdown versus Oklahoma. That is pedestrian. Average those out. That is 59.2% completion percentage, 175 yards. Guys, that is an average quarterback at best. And that's in a down year of quarterbacking. That might be average. If this was last year, it would be below average. Last year was elite quarterbacking. So overall, I just don't think Nico is living up to what he was billed as. Now, do I think he will eventually? Yes, because you see the throws. You saw the throw on the Arkansas game where he spins out of the pocket, throws back as he's running left, throws back, and is able to hit someone deep down the field. I believe it was Squirrel White for that catch. Great catch for him, by the way. So he has the talent. It's the down in and down out basis that I'm concerned about. And this Tennessee team, honestly, if they had, like, if you trade Nico for Quinn Ewers, I think Tennessee probably wins the national championship. They have a phenomenal defense. They have a great running game. The defense did get tired, made some mistakes in the course of that game, but overall, it's a really good defense. I really believe that watching it. But Nico is the main issue right now, and I don't know if that's fixable this year. I think that may be a next year thing in Tennessee. I don't know if that defense – it won't be. The Tennessee defense probably won't be as good as they are this year because they have a lot of depth, and a lot of that depth is going to go to the NFL. Number 4 for me, who is going to Atlanta? Anyone want to put a guess in the comments? Go ahead. Do it. I have no idea. My preseason prediction was Alabama versus Texas. Alabama beats Texas. I'm going to stick with that. I don't know what to do with that at this point. Like I said, I'm sticking to my preseason at this point, and that's what preseason I have, and that's as good as any at this point. I mean, I think Texas is in the driver's seat. I think if Texas wins Oklahoma and Georgia the next 2 weeks, they're going to Atlanta. I don't think there's really any case that they can't. Like, they're not. There was a call on Mark Rogers last night said they're going to lose to Arkansas, Texas A&M. They're not losing to both those teams. Could they lose to one? Yes, they're not losing to both. So do I think Texas, if they take care of business in the next 2 weeks, ends up in Atlanta? Absolutely. And if that happens, who's the other team? Is it Ole Miss? They've looked vulnerable. I like their defense actually more than their offense at this point. I don't think their offense is that good. I don't think Jackson Dart's that good. I've said that before, by the way. That guy's the most overrated quarterback. Him and Dylan Gabriel. I've been on that train before anyone. Those are the 2 most overrated quarterbacks in the country. I do not understand the hype around either of them. I've said that before the year. That's why I didn't think Oregon was going to do well because of their schedule, but they're not that good of a football team because of him. And then Jackson Dart has not impressed me. That defense has been great. They had 5 more sacks versus South Carolina. And yes, South Carolina has a bad offensive line, but 5 sacks is 5 sacks. And their secondary actually looked competent yesterday. Again, versus Lenore Sellers, that's probably easier to do. Is it Kentucky? I watched Brock Vandergrift look completely lost versus South Carolina and look decent versus Ole Miss. So which Brock Vandergrift am I getting week to week? I know what I'm getting on the defensive side of the ball. That's a really good, talented defense. And like Darrell said, Darrell, you're right. They might have the best defense in the country. We will see. Let's see. Alabama. Secondary, man. If you can't get the secondary fixed, that team's not going to Atlanta. I have no idea what to do with them. I like Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe is probably a first-round quarterback going into the NFL this year if he wants to be. Georgia, slow starts after slow starts. That's all they do, and you can do that versus the Auburns, the Kentuckys, and get away with it. You're not going to – if you do that versus in Austin, I'm going to tell you right now, Texas is going to come out and beat you easily, by the way. They will punch you in the mouth. Texas in those type of games, I do not worry about. I worry about them, honestly, in a week like this where we're probably ranked number 1 and Oklahoma's, getting 14.5 points on DraftKings. So we'll see about that game. I'm more worried about that game right now, honestly, and that could change week to week again. Let's see. Ole Miss, Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama. Who else? Tennessee, like we just talked about. If Nico doesn't get it together and start playing good, just good, I don't see them making Atlanta. LSU, I guess, is hanging in the weeds right now. I thought they were one of the 2 most overrated teams, Missouri being the most overrated. Going into the season, I had LSU 9-3, I had Missouri 8-4. LSU, their defense did look better versus South Alabama. Bye week this week. We'll see what they do next week. Could they? Possibly. And then this team, Texas A&M, the only reason I'm talking about them is because the schedule. The schedule is dog poop easy, baby poop easy, whatever you want to call it. It's soft. It is not good. I do not understand. Like, people talk about, Texas' schedule. A&M's got a worse schedule than Texas. They don't play anybody worth a damn. And you're going to say, we played Notre Dame. Notre Dame's not a good football team. And people are going to say, what about Michigan? Michigan and Notre Dame are the same football team. So I don't understand I don't know. I just don't know. That's at this point, that's where I'm in the season. I have no idea. Texas A&M because of schedule, possibly. They could. That'd be so interesting. Last week of the season, or playoff berth on the line, Texas A&M comes in with 1 or 2 losses with a 1 or 0 loss Texas. That would be astronomical ticket prices. It'd be probably one of the 2 or 3 most watched games of the year. So that'll be interesting. I have no idea, guys. Drop your comments in there. I'm interested to see who you think. I'm going to stick with my preseason Texas versus Alabama. We'll see if that comes through. Who gets fired first? Shane Beamer, Sam Pittman, Billy Napier. Again, drop in the comments. Take a guess. I don't know. Billy Napier beat UCF yesterday. I thought that was going to happen. Whip-de-doo. That was the only game I got right in the SEC slate, I think. Sam Pittman, congratulations, brother. You won a really big game. But if you notice a pattern here, Sam Pittman is good when he has good assistant coaches. When he had good assistant coaches a couple years ago and they won, 10 games, 9 games, that's why they did it. The thing is, how long is Bobby Petrino willing to stick around and be an offense coordinator, or does he have the thirst to be a head coach again? 1. And 2, their defensive coordinator, I believe, Brian Williams or something like that? How long does he stick around? So either, Sam, honestly, if you want a job long-term and you don't want to ride it off into the sunset, like after this year, let's say they go 8-4, and he's just like, you know what, I'm going to ride off. This was a nice year. I would take some money out of my own salary and pay the assistants more, because that is why you're winning, brother. It is not because of you. You're not a good coach. It's when you get the right assistants around you that your team wins. And there's a lot of coaches like that, guys. There's very few coaches who survive constant interchangeable parts on the staff. Texas, that is a concern for me. When Kyle Flood eventually leaves, Jeff Banks, we'll see how Sark does. If he does a good job, then we got a Nick Saban type guy in our hands. We got a Kirby Smart type guy in our hands. We have a Dabo Sweeney type guy in our hands. But there's plenty of guys who, once their assistants leave, they fall off a cliff. Lance Leipold at Kansas, Andy Kotelnicki left for Penn State. They are bad. They are not good anymore. And that's going to be interesting, because so far that is the pattern here. And that's what I think is going to happen if he doesn't give up some money from himself and give it, or if Arkansas just ponies up the money. They had the money. Then Shane Beamer, brother, I don't know what to think of you. You play LSU. You're pumped up. Your team looks ready to go. You should have won that game. You play Ole Miss. You look completely lost, completely outcoached, completely, honestly, I'm not going to say out physical because the defense was pretty physical, but they just don't look like a good football team. From week to week, I have no idea what I'm getting. Year to year, I do. I know your offensive line is going to suck. I don't know how you haven't gotten that figured out. Your offensive line has been the worst in the SEC, and last year was the worst in the country, and it might be again. So you have that back-to-back years. You're South Carolina. That should be able to be fixed. You should be able to go in the portal and get one or two guys and then recruit one or two guys, and it should be fixed, period. And is it the offensive line coach's issue, or is it the personnel issue? I don't know. So figure that out, Shane Beamer. I think that's his biggest issue. Honestly, if we're looking at who I think gets fired first, Pitman's out of this. Pitman's not getting fired first. I think they're going to go 8-4. They could be undefeated at this point. They really could. They could have beat A&M. They could have beat Oklahoma State. They should have beaten Oklahoma State. I think Billy Napier still gets fired first, but Shane Beamer's creeping up, man. If Billy Napier just wins one game that he shouldn't, kind of like Sam Pittman did yesterday, I'm going to jump on Shane Beamer getting fired first because I like the South Carolina defense, and if you just get average offensive production, you should be able to win 7 games on the schedule. In 7 games, they won't fire him for that, I don't think. I predicted them to win 7 games. They've got a pretty hard schedule coming up, so we'll see what happens. They're so inconsistent. I could see wins versus all those teams, and they're not going to do that because they're inconsistent, but I could see it. I could see losses versus all those teams, so I don't know. But who gets fired first? Leave that in the comments. Guys, this has been another edition of my 5 takeaways from week 6 in the SEC. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. I really appreciate you guys being here. Again, 8 p.m. Eastern time every Tuesday. Tyler and I will talk about the upcoming games. We'll probably talk about the last week games because they were crazy. Thank you guys for being here. And as always, it just means more.